The NFL's league year begins Wednesday at 4 p.m., but the negotiation window throughout the league opened up on Monday. Over the course of the last, 24 or 36 hours, the Jets and the other 31 NFL teams have reportedly come to a number of agreements. And we're going to get to some of the Jets' reported signings, but let's start with a trade that Adam Schefter just reported Tuesday afternoon. The Jets acquiring former Jets quarterback Geno Smith, a 2013 second-round pick from the Las Vegas Raiders, in a trade that includes a pick swap. The Jets getting a 2026 seventh-round pick, and I believe the Raiders getting the Jets 2026 sixth-round pick.
Yeah, they just move up 11 spots.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And this basically ensures that if Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji go through the evaluation process and they landed on Geno Smith being the guy, which it definitely seems to be the case, then what happened today ensures that they got their guy. Because Geno Smith, it was reported that he would be released at the start of the new league year. That, to your point, doesn't start until tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So now, following the reports, the Jets have their guy, as in Geno Smith. And, Albert Breer actually took to Twitter and he said that he texted Geno Smith, and I'll pull up the exact response, but it was something along the lines of complete full circle moment, happy to be back and establish a new relationship with Jets fans and the community.
Yeah, listen, and the other thing, according to reports, Schefter on it first, that the Jets are going to owe Smith the league minimum. He takes on a restructured contract that the Raiders are going to pick up the bulk of. Mm-hmm. So from a financial perspective, this makes a lot of dollars and cents, and also makes a lot of sense from the Jets' perspective because, again, you have a lot of flexibility. You have the cap flexibility still. You have an experienced quarterback. You said you were going to exhaust all your options at the position. And oh, by the way, you still are going to have 10 draft picks, including number 2 overall, that 16th pick in the first round. And then you have the 2 picks in the second round as well for the top 44 overall. So we're going to get to several of the Jets' moves, but Geno at the top of the list here.
And this doesn't necessarily mean the Jets are done at quarterback either. I saw a lot of the beat reporters saying that the Jets wanted to take care of their QB1 before assessing potentially bringing in another quarterback as their quarterback 2. Tyrod Taylor, free agent right now. Justin Fields is on the roster. We'll see what happens in the coming days and weeks with that. But with Geno specifically, I think when you look at last year's numbers, maybe there's a case or there's a world in which they're a little jaded. He made the Pro Bowl in 22 and 23, 24 he didn't with Seattle. When I say jaded, I mean from a fan's perspective, because you look at it and you're like, okay, he had a down year compared to what he was with the Seahawks. Just over 3,000 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, 17 picks. Don't forget, though, that Geno Smith was a part of an offense that fired its coordinator early, a one-and-done head coach in Pete Carroll. The Raiders, the worst team in football statistically. They have the number 1 overall pick. And then you look at, so to me, not the best situation for any quarterback to succeed, given especially the offensive line struggles that they endured. And then you look at what happened with Seattle over the course of the last 3 seasons there with the Seahawks as a starting quarterback. 2022 to 2024, he completed 68.5% of his passes, 12,000 plus yards, 71 touchdowns, 35 interceptions. So seemingly everyone thought that he became this new version of Geno Smith there. I don't think that player just disappeared last year.
To your point, he was a Pro Bowler in 2022 and 2023 with the Seahawks. He was the NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 2022. If you look over the course of Geno's career, he's a 65% passer, has 124 touchdowns and 89 interceptions. I know what the knock is right now, is that people are going to say, listen, he led the league in turnovers and interceptions last season with 17. But to your point, I kind of look at the Raiders situation and say there were a lot of things not clicking there last year. And again, Geno's coming to a team under Aaron Glenn that wants to rush the football. New offensive coordinator Frank Reich between 18 and 2021 with the Colts, that was a top 5 rushing offense. The Jets like their stable of backs, and they have that offensive line. I know the Jets are going to be looking for a guard because Elijah Vera Tucker signed with the Patriots. John Simpson's going back to Baltimore, but this team is going to try to control things in the trenches, rush the football. And Geno Smith has been an accurate passer throughout his career, and he's gotten better at every stop when you talk about what he did with Seattle. And he'll be in rebound mode now after what happened last year.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone expected Geno to have the years he did in Seattle. I feel like this has become the trend in the NFL, where you think of a guy like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold to that extent, Geno in Seattle before Sam went there. Like, there are all these examples of quarterbacks flourishing not in their first 5 to 6 years in the league, but flourishing later on in their career. And Geno is older than both Baker and Sam. I'm not saying he's going to have those type of seasons. All I'm saying is that, like, from your perspective, EA, he's here with the Jets from 2013 to 16. He bounces around the Giants, the Chargers as backups. Then he finds a home in Seattle for a couple of years as a backup. Like, am I wrong in thinking that I don't think people thought Geno was going to flourish to be the player he was there to begin with?
No, you're not wrong. And listen, again, Smith did that work in Seattle. He signs the deal in Las Vegas. For whatever reason, it didn't work out there last year for Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Geno Smith, a number of guys. And now the Raiders have the first overall pick in the draft, and we're all assuming that's going to be Fernando Mendoza. But when you look at Smith, he's 35 years old. I think he's a young 35. He's got a great arm. He's going to be working with a star receiver here in Garrett Wilson. The Jets like their pieces offensively. We talk about the stable of backs, including Breece Hall, Braylon Allen coming back from injury, Isaiah Davis. You got Mason Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert at the tight end position. Adonai Mitchell is a burner. Geno loves to throw the long ball. Jets have some guys who can get down the field, and I don't think they're done at the receiver position. And again, you like the pieces around him. And if you are looking to draft a quarterback, you still can do it. This guy is on a minimum deal right now at 35 years old.
It's so team friendly. The idea in general, to your point, one, you get a veteran in the room, a guy that's played at a high level recently. Then you, to your point, the financial marriage makes a ton of sense considering the deal is league minimum, maybe a little bit more than that. Another thing that I want to circle back on, you mentioned the Jets wanting to run the football. Let me read you the stat from 2022. On his way to winning Comeback Player of the Year in 2022, Smith completed 75.3% of his 150 play-action pass attempts and tossed 8 touchdowns, helping lead the Seahawks to a wild card berth. All I'm saying is that is probably what the Jets are going to want to do regardless of who the quarterback is. Establish the run and throw off of play action. And Geno Smith seemingly does that at a very high level.
Yeah, so Smith led the NFL last year in interceptions with the 17. He was also sacked a league high 55 times. But again, he was not operating behind an offensive line like the one that he'll be working with here with the Jets. And again, this offense predicated on running the football. He's going to have some play action opportunities. I don't think the Jets are done at the receiver position. So again, this is a big domino here at the start of free agency.
Yeah.
Again, if this trade does in fact go through, Adam Schefter reports it, that will happen Wednesday at 4 p.m.
Yeah, and this is what we would consider the second reported quarterback domino to fall. The first one being Malik Willis reportedly signing with the Dolphins, and now Geno Smith reportedly being traded to the New York Jets. The other dominoes that we had circled before free agency that really there have been no reports yet. Kirk Cousins and Kyler Murray seemingly are the other two.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that all plays out once we reach Wednesday at 4 p.m., of course.
I feel like people talk about dog years. There's like NFL free agency years because it feels like we've been talking about and
this is kind of what we expected, though, right?
Every year, yeah. But I feel like news yesterday 23 hours ago or 24 to 27 hours ago. Feels like it was about a month and a half ago.
All right, let me go rapid fire here on some of Geno's stats in Seattle. Again, first couple years, he was a backup there to Russell Wilson. That's 2020 and 21. He becomes a full-time starter in 2022, led the league with 9 games with a 70% or higher completion percentage, and had 10 games of 100-plus passer rating. Then in 2023, he sets an NFL mark with 7 go-ahead touchdown passes in the fourth quarter of overtime. And during his 3-year run as a starter in Seattle, you're talking about him completing 68% of his passes for 12,226 yards, 71 touchdowns, and 35 interceptions. That's the guy you're hoping you get here with the Jets.
Yeah, it is. And to your point earlier, when you look at the situation that he's coming to, the offensive line stands out because, one, is the strength of the Jets. I know, like you mentioned, Elijah Vera-Tucker is off to New England. But look at what the Raiders have done in free agency. They just made Tyler Linderbaum the highest paid free agent offensive lineman, definitely highest paid free agent center.
Monster deal.
So if the Raiders are doing that, as their day one splash, they clearly need to upgrade there. I don't think it's a secret either. A lot of people are in the mock draft circuits are thinking that with the 14th overall pick, maybe they're going to take an offensive lineman there as well. So when you look at that and you compare it to what the Jets have up front, 2 great tackles. Yes, the Jets need to add to the interior, but they have a very good center right guard duo right now. So this is immediately a better situation than what we saw Geno Smith play with last year.
You have young bookend tackles that everybody is high on. Armand Membu, you took 7th overall out of Missouri last spring, and he really had a tremendous rookie season. At the left tackle position, you have Olu Fashanu. But again, we don't know if the Jets are done at the quarterback position. They could add another veteran here, and they still have all that draft capital in. Again, he's going to be paid the veteran minimum here.
It just makes sense from every direction. From an experience perspective, like you think about what the Jets have done in terms of bringing Frank Reich aboard. He's a veteran play caller compared to what the Jets had last year in Tanner Engstrand. You have a veteran quarterback who's made 2 Pro Bowls, and not just, I don't think they were like backdoor Pro Bowls. I think they were legitimate Pro Bowl seasons, if I remember correctly. So to me, you add experience there. He can clearly toss the pill at a high level. Maybe, to your point, the knocks are probably 1 last year and 2, the interception numbers, but he can throw the ball and he can throw it well and he can throw it accurately. And I think that the way that he's played football over the last X amount of years, 1, you would imagine if you're Garrett Wilson, you're a fan of the way that he throws the ball. I remember you telling me, this is years ago, how Geno Smith throws one of the best balls that you've seen at practice in your time.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. He can spin it. And he's put up some big numbers during his time. Again, I think the Jets are going to get in advantageous situations if indeed it is Geno the starter, but whomever is starting for the Jets, I believe this offense is going to be predicated on the run. That's what Aaron Glenn wants to do. Frank Reich has showed that he is an offensive play caller, wants to get it moving on the ground, most notably in Indianapolis with Jonathan Taylor. So Geno Smith is a Jet. And oh, by the way, if the Jets fall in love with one of these quarterbacks in the draft, Ty Simpson from Alabama, Nussmeier, Drew Eller down the line, or Project, and whatever, you can take them. And I know everybody's looking at 2027 and the 3 first-round picks. That's well ahead of time. But again, I think this is a little risk move here by the Jets, acquiring a veteran who's done it at a high level in the National Football League, who I think is going to really embrace coming back to have a second opportunity with the Jets. He started his first 2 years here with the green and white, and then obviously things happened, came undone, but he'll have a chance to come home again.
Maybe this is reading too much into this, but like I said earlier with the Albert Breer text, it says, looking forward, this is Geno Smith's text to Albert Breer. Complete full circle moment, looking forward to connecting with all of my teammates and coaches and building a new relationship with the fans. Again, could be totally me reading into this too much, but this is the world we live in. When I see new relationship with the fans, I start to think of the expectations when he was here, the untapped potential, like you saw flashes of it, like the perfect game, Rex's last year.
Against the Miami Dolphins?
Yeah, so like to me, you've seen potential of it. It came to fruition with the Seahawks later in his career.
Yep.
And to me, building a new relationship with Jets fans, in my opinion and mine alone, means that maybe he has a chip on his shoulder to prove to Jets fans that he is the guy that they thought he was in 2013 when they drafted, or the guy that he could have been.
All right, so let's get to the defensive side of the ball. We anticipated the Jets to be quite busy. Darren Muji said, we're going to take a calculated but aggressive approach. And they certainly did that. Let's talk about a couple veterans, the headliners here, as far as reports are concerned. Demario Davis, another guy returning to the Jets, 37 years old. Aaron Glenn was on a staff in New Orleans under Sean Payton, working with Davis every day. This guy's a tackling machine. He had more than 140 tackles last year. He's seen it all in the league. And he's going to embrace the fact that he can come in and kind of be the guy that the defense can gravitate towards.
I love the move from that perspective alone. Play aside. Like, you think about how young the Jets were at the end of last year. Like, and I'm talking about before injuries really came into play. Zaire Thomas, post Sauce Gardner trade, Zaire Thomas is starting, Malachi Moore is starting. You're talking about a lot of young players that got valuable experience, but to have a guy be central command that's seen it all, especially now with Aaron Glenn calling plays. You remember the quote that Aaron Glenn had about Demario Davis before the Jets played the Saints? I mean, he was waxing poetic about
Double D, one of the best leaders I've ever been around.
Like point blank. And to me, I think that's what maybe the Jets defense was missing. Yeah, they added guys like Harrison Phillips, and Harrison Phillips is cut from that cloth. No doubt about that. Demario Davis is another guy, though, that is similar to Harrison Phillips, where there's no excuses. The answers, when you don't have them, are to work harder and then find the answers. And to me, like, that makes so much sense from a leadership perspective. And you think from a play style, you read off the numbers. He's still a tackling machine.
Oh, yeah.
He's seen everything in the league. Like, this is a good move for the Jets defense, one that I think would pay off or will pay off dividends, even when Demario Davis decides that he no longer wants to play football.
So I made the comparison to Vinny Testaverde. Vinny's still in great shape himself. I've always made the argument
You mean like Vinny right now?
No, yes, Vinny is in great shape.
Yeah.
I've always made the argument that Vinny's going to get up when he's 70 and be able to sling the rock. Well, I think Demario Davis, who's 37, who's a physical specimen, he's going to be able to be a run plugger who is going all over the place at 70 himself. I mean, he is just a guy who's kept himself in tremendous condition, and he's got a mind for the game. And also, he's going to be a guy, again, that those young guys in the locker room, the Jamie and Sherwoods of the world, the Kiko Mayanoas can look to and say, hey, man, this guy's done it at such a high level for this long, and I'll be able to learn from him just by watching his approach. Good signing. Let's go to the trade front once again.
Well, one thing about Demario, I just want to get your opinion on. This might be maybe an easy take, maybe a lazy take, I don't know. But don't you feel like it feels like C.J. Mosley all over again, where you could tell how much the locker room appreciated C.J. Mosley when he signed in 2019. This feels similar because of the leadership perspective.
I think, bar none, Demario Davis is one of the best leaders in the league.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that you're going to be able to get a guy at 37 on the defensive side of the ball playing linebacker position like he does. That's how well he's kept himself in shape over the years. Also, he's always in the film room studying, and there's nothing that an opposing offense is going to show him that he hasn't seen before. And Aaron Glenn, who's calling defensive plays this year, now has a guy that I was with in New Orleans, that I know the way he approaches this thing every day. Speaking of familiarity, though, let's go back to the secondary. The Jets reportedly agreed to a trade with the Miami Dolphins. Minkah Fitzpatrick coming home. He went to St. Peter's.
Yeah, another different kind of homecoming.
Yeah, he went to St. Peter's Prep, so that's about 16 miles away from MetLife Stadium. I know last December the Dolphins were here. He talked about how friends, family, coaches, former teammates would come out and watch him. Well, now it doesn't just have to be a once-a-year thing.
Yeah, I love this move too. I mean, seemingly, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I know the interception numbers are not quite there compared to what they used to be. But he's a smart player. He's a physical player. He's someone that I think will elevate the presence of the back end. I did see a number, though, that was talking about how, like an analytics number about how he was asked to play in Miami, more deep end safety as opposed to where he usually is. And I'm sure that Aaron Glenn has a plan for Minkah. I mean, maybe this is similar to the Brian Branch mold of play that with the Lions, where a little safety, little nickel, little here, little there, between him, between Malachi Moore. I think the Jets are now just a lot more versatile in the back end of the secondary.
Yeah, I believe 21 career interceptions for Fitzpatrick. Now, a lot of people are saying that he had one last year in Miami. That was a team that was decimated by injuries in the secondary. He's a guy who said last year when he went back to Miami that, hey, bottom line, I can make these great plays or I can make these great catches, but I have to be able to reach out to my teammates in the locker room. This is all about building a culture. And when you bring guys like Demario Davis and Minkah Fitzpatrick here, you're building a culture, okay? And so those are the headliners on the defensive side of the ball. Remember the trade route that Mooj went a week ago, reportedly. I think it's going to be announced officially on Wednesday. They get T-Pain, Devondre Sweat from the Tennessee Titans. He can play the big nose. So the Jets, sometimes when they want to line up at the 3-4, they have a guy who can occupy blockers, and that's going to free up Demario Davis, Jamie Sherwood, Maya Noah, and the rest of these guys.
And I think that when you look at the total picture, the Jets' defense is totally different than it was 24 hours ago. You talked about those guys. Up front, then, the Jets add Joseph Asai, David Onyemata. Like, there's a lot of players.
Another guy who played with...
And loves Glenn.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen the inside, the mic'd up clip of AG, he loves him. He sought him out after the game just to tell him how much he appreciated him from 10 years before that. So the Jets defense looks totally different. If you're a fan, I think you should be encouraged by the way that the Jets have been navigating the early portions of free agency.
Yeah, so huge point here. We got to get out of here. Frank's telling us we got to land this plane. Bottom line is, when I look at a lot of these moves on the defensive side of the ball, I think the Jets are addressing their problems that we saw last year against the run. You bring in Demario. You got the big space eater in the middle in T-Pain, who comes here in his third year. You talked about some of the veteran edges that they brought in as well, guys who've been solid against the run throughout their careers. So for the Jets, it's interesting because on paper, you'll be able to be better against the run. You still have Will McDonald firing off the edge. And, oh, by the way, the Jets have the number 2 overall selection in the draft. Is that Arvell Reese?
Yep.
Is that David Bailey? You have options, and the Jets aren't done. Because, remember, we'll come full circle here and say, again, if the Geno Smith trade does indeed transpire tomorrow at 4 p.m., minimum salary as far as the league minimum. So the Jets still have financial flexibility, still have several holes to fill. But with that being said, the approach looks solid from this end.
I totally agree, and I'm excited to see what transpires between now and the draft, and then obviously shortly thereafter, because so far so good.
Yeah, it feels like we've been in the ocean riding waves, but this is just the initial wave of free agency that begins 4 p.m. Wednesday.